How many times have you spent a good chunk of your day battling that relentless inner critic, watching your thoughts spiral out of control like a slinky going down the stairs at the Met Gala? Today we're going to talk about something that we all experience at one time or another, some more often than others, how to stop spiraling and finally break free of those negative thought patterns. So stick around and I will do my best to help you walk away with real-world ADHD-friendly strategies to pump the brakes on those self-defeating cycles, and maybe even have a laugh or two at my expense. This wasn't the video I was going to put out today. I actually had one already filmed and edited and scheduled to go out, and then something happened to me, and I felt really called to share some of this insight with you because I'm literally going through it right now. We are supposed to get a snowstorm today, and they're talking like 4 to 8 inches of snow being dumped on us starting at noon. So I had to go to the grocery store because we are like on the precipice of cereal for dinner at this point. So I had to go get groceries. So I get the kid in the car and my low tire pressure light comes on, which happens. It's winter in Michigan. Low tire pressure happens all the time. So I grab my portable air compressor and I go to fill it up, and there is a nail sticking out of it, which is just like a normal aspect of life, could happen to anybody. But that nail, it was the spark that sent me spiraling. My brain went into full meltdown mode, playing its greatest hits, including, why does this always happen to me? I don't have time for this. And the classic, I can't do anything right. As if I had somehow manifested this situation into fruition. And of course, it wasn't just the tire. It was a culmination of a ton of stresses that have been building up. But that nail sent my amygdala off to the races. I was in full fight or flight mode, my body shaking to the point that my watch says I almost hit my step goal for the day sitting in my driveway. Now, if that story sounds familiar to you, I'd like to think you're in good company. We've all been there. And today, I just want to share a few things that help me break out of this cycle of bitch panic mode and helps to calm me down when I find myself spiraling. And first thing first, let's talk about what spiraling really is. When you're spiraling, your brain gets stuck in this loop of negative self-talk and catastrophic thinking. It's the moment when a minor inconvenience becomes the center of your universe, and every thought seems to be tainted with, I am a failure, and this is never going to get better. And when your brain is in that state, it's really hard to think rationally. In fact, rational thought becomes an internalized version of the terrible twos, and you're left with a barrage of what ifs and should haves and I don't want tos. So how do we stop it? Well, first, it starts with recognizing that you're in the spiral. Awareness is the first step to defeating this. The moment you catch yourself thinking, I can't do anything right, or everything is falling apart, pause, take a deep breath, and then take another. Then we get to work on reframing those thoughts. If you've never heard of CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy, it teaches us that our thoughts shape our emotions. So by challenging those negative thoughts, you really can change the way that you feel. Instead of letting that nail in the tire, or whatever your version of that is, trigger a cascade of self-loathing, you need to ask yourself, is this really the end of the world? Am I really a failure because of one mishap? The answer to those questions, by the way, should be no. And sometimes you need to say it out loud. No matter how ridiculous you feel, even if you're sitting in your driveway in front of your neighbors, because this isn't about them. It's about you. I like to call this technique questioning the spiral. Every time a negative thought creeps in, you have to challenge it. What evidence do I have that this is true? And most of the time, you're going to realize that your mind has blown the situation way out of proportion. For me, yeah, I got a flat tire. But how many thousands of miles have I driven where nothing has happened? I am not a walking disaster. I experienced a hiccup, just like everyone does from time to time. Another strategy would be to practice mindfulness. Now, I know that mindfulness sounds a little self-helpy, maybe even a little woo-woo, but please hear me out, because it's not. Mindfulness is about grounding yourself in the present moment, in the here and now. When you are spiraling, your mind is freaking out about the future or pissed off about the past, but you have to focus on what is happening right now. Look around you. Inhale the scent of coffee. Listen to the birds chirping around you. Feel the concrete under your ass if you're still sitting in the driveway. These small sensory things can anchor you back into the present and help to break the cycle of negative thinking. I also have a little trick that I call the grounding countdown. So from right where you are, you name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. It might sound like a lot, but when you're on the edge of a downward spiral, redirecting yourself to your own personal senses can help bring you back from that precipice. Another thing that's going to help, but might be a little difficult to put into practice, is to give yourself some compassion. And for many of us, especially those of us with ADHD, we are our own worst critics. We are constantly berating ourselves for not being perfect, for missing deadlines, for being late, for getting distracted, and every little misstep in between. But what if, instead of beating ourselves up, we tried for a little compassion? Could you imagine talking to your best friend and telling them, yep, you're the worst. You're stupid. You're chronically late. And you could do so much better. No, you would never talk to someone you love like that. So you have to stop talking to yourself like that. One really effective way to counter this is to write down all of your negative thoughts in one column on a piece of paper, and then in another column, contradict every single one of them. Hopefully with the truth. So when you write down, I can't do anything right, you're going to counter that with, I am doing the best that I can. And that is enough. Over time, this practice can honestly rewire your brain and teach it to be kinder to itself. Now let's get practical for a minute. Sometimes negative spirals are triggered by small, everyday annoyances that feel monumental in the moment. For example, say you splash a little bit of coffee on your planner. Your immediate thought may be, great, now I've ruined everything. I can't do anything right. Instead, step back and see it for what it really is. It's a frickin' splash of coffee. Remind yourself that everyone makes mistakes, everyone has accidents. Then turn that discoloration into decoration and learn to laugh about it. Humor is a powerful tool for breaking negative thought patterns. One of my favorite television shows was Grace and Frankie. I have a point, I promise. I'm not going off on a ADHD tangent here. In one episode, one of the daughters shows up and she's got a stack of like really sad DVDs. Usually DVDs were like the dog dies, so super sad, right? Once a year, she allows herself to immerse herself into these super sad movies, and all of the anger and frustration and tears that she has saved up for a year, she lets it all out at once. Now, I don't necessarily think it's healthy to let it all build up for 365 days and have one day where you let it all out. But I do think that scheduling worry time could be a healthy addition to a routine. I know that it sounds counterintuitive, but instead of letting your worries spiral out of control every minute of every day, set aside a specific time. Maybe it's 15 minutes a week. Maybe things are really rough right now and you need 5 minutes every single day to sit down and allow yourself to let all of the worry out, to acknowledge its existence, get it out on paper, or even say it out loud. And when that time is up, then we start to reframe the things that we're concerned about. Let yourself wallow for a minute, because it's impractical to think that it's never going to happen. But if you know that you have time set aside to, I don't know, doom scroll or bitch panic or spiral for a set time frame, it's gonna help it to not take over every minute of every day. It's creating a mental boundary so you're not in a constant state of anxiety every single day. And while we're here, let's talk about movement. It might seem unrelated, but physical movement is actually a fantastic way to break a negative spiral. When you're stuck in your head, you need to get up and move your body. Take a short walk. Dance around your living room. Do some light stretching. Movement releases endorphins. Endorphins make you happy, and happy people don't kill their husbands. That was a Legally Blonde reference, in case you've never seen it. Now, obviously, if you're one of my spoonies, physical movement can be a challenge. But as always, I urge you to do what you can with the energy and physicality you have available to you. If you can't full on dance, try just bobbing your head to the music. Splay your fingers and stretch your toes. Do anything that can reconnect you with your body. Unless the issues with your body are what have sent you into this spiral, and then just ignore this one, because I don't have a chronic condition and I don't have mobility issues. So I cannot speak from a place of knowledge. I can only speak from a place of compassion. While we're talking about things that I don't know, it is also very important to recognize that sometimes these spirals and negative thought patterns are a symptom of a deeper issue. Stress, anxiety, actual clinical depression. If you find that this is happening to you with increasing frequency and it is affecting your quality of life, it might be time to talk to a professional. And I do know and understand that not everyone has access to this kind of care and treatment, but I think it would be irresponsible for me to not at least mention it. I am not a doctor. I am not a therapist. I am a stranger on the internet. And while I love you and I can talk to you with understanding and compassion, I cannot help an actual mental wellness issue for you. So I cannot be a substitute for medical help if that is something that you need. I don't have a good way to transition out of that. So I'm just going to take a sip of coffee and then we're going to pick back up. I know that all of this sounds like a lot of work. And trust me, I get it. Sometimes the very act of reading or hearing all of these things can be overwhelming. But diving into this today, sitting down to research ways to help me break out of this spiral, helped me break out of my spiral. It taught me things that I could then sit down and talk to you about to help you as well. And another great way of breaking out of a negative thought pattern is to help someone else. As with everything we do here, and I don't care if you're sick of hearing it, all of this is about progress over perfection. It's about taking small, manageable steps toward a healthier mindset. One day you might find that a 5-minute walk or a single deep breath is enough to pull you out of your pattern. But some days you're going to need to try multiple techniques, one after the other, until you find the one that works, or the culmination of all of them together calms down your brain. Today, I needed multiple of these because that nail was just one piece of a much bigger puzzle. It was the trigger that set off. It wasn't a full-on panic attack, but it was gearing up to be one. I'm not here to tell you all my stresses and problems and stuff because it doesn't matter outside of my 4 walls. But yeah, I got a lot going on. And that tire was my last straw today. But now I can sit here and talk to you and tell you that it was also the catalyst to do something good. And I know for sure that it wasn't a reflection of me, anything I did, or what I'm not capable of doing. I need you to understand that these things are not magic bullets. They're not going to instantly erase any negative thought you ever have. And they're probably not going to work every single time you find yourself in a spiral. They're just tools in a toolbox, and you never know what tool you're going to need until you're in a moment where you feel broken. So having these in your arsenal is just going to help, but they may not be all the tools that you're going to need in the future. If there is one thing I have learned along the way, it's that negative thoughts and spiraling are like unwelcome house guests. They show up, they linger, but you have the power to ask them to leave. And sometimes you even learn to let them sit at the kitchen table for a while before you slap your hands on your thighs and say, well, which is Midwest polite for get the hell out of my house. Because that pause, that ability to sit with it for just a minute, that's where the change happens. Before I wrap up, I want to leave you with one more thing. Life is not about avoiding challenges. It's about facing them head on, armed with the knowledge that you are capable of so much more than you believe, and we are never done learning. Every setback, every spiral is a new opportunity to learn, to grow, and to come out even stronger on the other side. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope that this video was helpful for you. It was definitely helpful for me to learn these things and to have an opportunity to help you in some way. So thank you for helping me out of my spiral as well. Don't forget to smash all those YouTube buttons for me and leave me a comment below and just let me know how you're doing. Because I really do care and I really do read every single comment that you guys leave me. I love you so much. Thank you for hanging out with me. I will see you next time.